Good morning. Always kind of takes a moment to get used to breathing in a different way. It's on. It's on. Should I step into the pulpit, Jesse?
Yeah.
Okay. Gives me time to be adjust. You're good. Try again. There. Okay.
Try the ball.
Okay. It's a little chancel dance we're doing. Jesse, should I turn off the body mic in the meantime? Okay. This was an encouraging sound. So good morning. Good morning. I had just said to Sally, it's so nice to begin. Everything's so calm. Now we're awake. Now we're awake. So I have a brief announcement before we begin, which is unusual for us, and that is we're going to sing today. Those of you at home can sing out to your heart's content. Those here in Unity Hall sing, but sing softly. So maybe not to your heart's content, but your hearts will be more content than our hearts have been humming. Those of you who are here for the first time, we've been humming, and it's not been fun for the past couple of weeks. So this marks a step up, which feels so good, right? Coffee hour is returning soon. I know. We don't know whether next week or the week that follows. Stay tuned, but we're getting there. We're getting there, and that is good news. That is good news. The choir rehearsed indoors. See, there's so much to give thanks for. That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. And so we begin. We begin on this glorious fall day beneath a blue sky, on the land of the Mohegans and the Niantics, land that we now worship upon and remember those who came before us and still remain. We gather on this day full of hope and sorrow woven fine, as it always is. We gather this morning to begin the work and wondering about what comes next in the future of this congregation. We gather, as always, grateful to be here. Welcome to All Souls. Where all souls are welcome, you are joyfully called to worship. And so I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit, and we will sing hymn number 1001. There are a couple of hymnals in the back. You can stand now. This is good. This is a hymn that sometimes is helpful to have the hymnal with you. It's Breaths. Some of you know this from Sweet Honey in the Rock. Here we go.
To things and to beings, listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath with the fire voices heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
And you could go shh. You can make that sound shh.
Those who have died have never left. The dead under the earth. They are in the rustling leaves. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. the ancestors' breath, in the voice of the waters. Let's end more often to things.
Yeah, we're on to the next. Hold on.
Those who have died have never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Whoosh, ah, whoosh, ah, whoosh, ah, whoosh.
So pretty, so pretty. That was so good. And so, Gary, keep on. We are still passing the peace. We are doing so, as you remember, in place. But in place first, we will turn and wave to the souls at home. Welcome, welcome. We see you, we know you are here. There are a couple folks here for the first time. If you're comfortable, just raise your hands so we know who you are. Welcome. We're so glad to see you. And now let's just turn to each other with joy and bow and wave, raise our eyebrows as we pass the peace.
Test.
Welcome, welcome. We'll begin as we always do by lighting. Let's try, there we go. Yay, Jesse. By lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, a symbol of courage and of freedom. Sally McGee, our board president, is serving as our liturgist this morning, and so she will do the honors while the rest of us read these words by Christine Robinson. In our time of grief, we light a flame of ongoing life. In this time when we search for understanding and serenity in the face of loss, we light this sign of our quest for truth, meaning, and community. And we alternate sometimes between a candle of peace and gratitude. And this morning, we will light a candle of gratitude. Gratitude, in fact, to Sally McGee, who traveled to Washington, D.C. I didn't tell you this beforehand. I'm kind of surprising her. Because Sally traveled down to Washington, D.C. this past week, and with hundreds of others, protested before the White House to respond swiftly and powerfully to the climate crisis. She did so representing all of us, and did so with many, many other Unitarian Universalists who made that pilgrimage with her. And so we thank you, Sally. Thank you. She will be sharing her experience in the weeks to come. As I'm sure you can all imagine, there is so much to process when you experience as big an experience as that was. So, thank you, Sally. Thank you. May some action come to pass, meaningful action. I'm sure you all read this past week that it looks like we may be backing down from the boldest measures. So I hope that this action and all of our insistence helps move the agenda forward. Let us hope. This morning is one of a series of services in which we reflect on and think about grief. And so this story for all ages is one that inspired the sermon. It is called When the Wind Stops, and it is by Charlotte Zolotow with illustrations, beautiful illustrations by Stefano Fatale. And so we begin. The great bright yellow sun had shone all day, and now the day was coming to an end. The light in the sky changed from pink to blue to a strange dusky purple. The sun sank lower into the long, glowing clouds. The little boy was sorry that the day had to end. He and his friend had played in the garden. They were tired of playing. They lay down in the grass and felt the sun on them, warm and soft, like a sleepy cat resting. There had been icy lemonade in the afternoon, which they drank under a pear tree. And the little boy's father read him a story on the porch before he went to bed. Now his mother came to say good night. Why does this day have to end?
So night can begin. Look.
She pointed out the window where, high in the darkening sky, behind the branches of the pear tree, the little boy could see a pale sliver of moon.
That's the night beginning. The night with the moon and stars and darkness for you to dream in.
But where does the sun go when the day ends?
The day doesn't end. It begins somewhere else. The sun will be shining there when night begins here. Nothing ends.
Nothing?
Nothing. It begins in another place or in a different way.
Where does the wind go when it stops?
It blows away to make the trees dance somewhere else.
Where does the mountain go after the top?
Down to where it becomes the valley.
Where does the rain go when the storm is over?
Into clouds to make other storms.
And the leaves in the forest, when they turn color and fall?
Into the ground to become part of new trees with new leaves.
But when the leaves fall, that is the end of something. It is the end of autumn.
Yes, the end of autumn is where the winter begins.
And the end of winter?
The end of winter, when the snow melts and the birds come back, is the beginning of spring.
It really does go on and on. Nothing ends.
Today is over. It's time for sleep, and tomorrow morning when you wake, The moon will be beginning a night far away, and the sun will be here to begin a new day.
So ends the story. Isn't that beautiful? Gary. Are we good? Yes, we are. Yay, yay. That's great. When we gather each week, we are sure to pay attention to the joy and the sorrow that has been experienced. We do this as a way to witness each other's lives, part of our commitment of living in community together. There was nothing noted in the book, and so we will just move on to our opportunity for you to come forward and to light a candle of intention. Sally will greet you at the end of the ramp. You are welcome to come forward and open this circle at this moment. Those of you who are online, feel free, of course, at this time to indicate your joy and sorrow in the chat. Please join me in a communion of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and of love, in all the ways that you are known and named. We gather up the joy and sorrow that is held in our hearts, and somehow these meet somewhere in the middle. May we bear witness to all that our hearts move through, grief especially, but also joy. May we be buoyed by the joy that is in this room. May a sense of reunion greet us each time we cross the threshold. And may we remember this day and every day to give thanks for every little thing, so that our hearts may be lifted, our minds kept calm. We give thanks for this day and all that it will bring. And may the congregation say, Amen. Amen. Jesse. So normally we would sing at this point. So we're just going to do one tiny little singing thing to close the circle. So just follow me as we sing. Amen. 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 Don't forget not to sing out. We're singing quietly. Sally.
Good morning. So there are two readings this morning. The first is C.S. Lewis from A Grief Observed. And I'll just mention that C.S. Lewis married late in life for the time. He married when he was about 41. And this excerpt is from a book about his experience of grief after his wife passed away. Her name was Helen Joy Davidman, and C.S. Lewis referred to her as H. Helen. Looking back, I see that only a very little time ago I was greatly concerned about my memory of H and how false it might become. For some reason, the merciful good sense of God is the only one I can think of. I have stopped bothering about that. And the remarkable thing is that since I stopped bothering about it, she seems to meet me everywhere. Meet is too far strong a word. I don't mean anything remotely like an apparition or a voice. I don't mean even anything strikingly I don't mean even any strikingly emotional experience at any particular moment. Rather, a sort of unobtrusive but massive sense that she is, just as much as ever, a fact to be taken into account. The second reading is from Anne Lamott. You will lose someone you can't live without, and your heart will be badly broken. And the bad news is that you will never completely get over the loss of your beloved. But this is also the good news. They live forever in your broken heart that doesn't seal back up, and you come through. It's like having a broken leg that never heals perfectly, that still hurts when the weather gets cold, but you learn to dance with a limp.
There are times and experiences that we fervently wish will end. This time of pandemic would be one of them. Last week, there was the frustrated exclamation, "Still, still, still." There was the stamping of feet. We know that the pandemic will change, and we hope that someday, in the not too far off future, it will subside in a way that will mean we are safe enough. But in the ways spiritual, the pandemic, like most things, will never end. Embers of this time will remain nestled in memory, nestled in our souls. We will wrestle with meaning making for a long, long while, measuring the grief against the ways that the pandemic did illuminate important truths. In today's story for all ages, to her son, a mother says, "Nothing ends." Long, long ago, the ancient ancestors said, "Set me as a seal upon your heart, a seal upon your arm, for love is as strong as death." That is, of course, from the Song of Solomon. I would boldly add to that ancient wisdom, set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for love and grief are as strong as death. Grief is as strong as death. It is the risk we take when we open our hearts to love, because death is inevitable. As we love, so do we grieve. So for a moment, just for a moment, let's consider possible responses to this hard truth. Let's consider one woman's wisdom. Lucy Hone is from New Zealand. She spent most of her life considering resilience in the wake of devastation. She's considered a global expert on resilience. When she was herself devastated by the tragic death of her 12-year-old daughter, she was shocked that the tone of the support she and her husband were offered was basically hopeless. They were told, by way of sympathy, they were warned that their marriage might not survive under the weight of the grief. She was told that she could simply write off the next 5 years that followed the accident, that her grief would basically swallow her up. She recognized that all of this was well-meaning, but she refused the support. She chose instead to live. In a TED Talk that I hope you'll watch sometime, she offers 3 secrets of resilient people, 3 strategies, she said, that stand on a monumental body of research. So I am going to share these with you very quickly in a very condensed way. But in short, here they are. She says that resilient people know that stuff happens. She uses a different word. That word is more effective, but I can't bring myself to say it in the pulpit, although I say it all the time out of the pulpit. But you know what she said. So imagine that in your own minds. Knowing that stuff happens prevents us from spiraling down into the bottomless pit that says, "Why me?" Suffering is a part of life. Hone says, but the real tragedy, she says, is that not enough of us seem to know this any longer. We seem to live in an age where we're entitled, we think, to a perfect life, where shiny, happy photos on social media are the norm. That ends her quote. So number 1, accept that in every life, including your own, difficult and shattering stuff happens. Second, she says that resilient people don't diminish the negative, but they also have worked really hard at tuning into the good and trying to tune out the negative. She's careful to clarify, however. She shares an example of a cave person coming out of a cave and seeing a saber-toothed tiger in one direction and a rainbow in the other, and that our survival instincts will demand that we pay more attention to the saber-toothed tiger. But she says that our brains are so bombarded with threatening information, scary information, that right now our brains are crowding out that which would bring us joy and peace. Therefore, she takes on a serenity prayer kind of attitude. Strive to have the wisdom to know the difference between what you can change and what you cannot. Don't diminish the negative, but as importantly, pay more attention to the good. So that's the second. Third, Hone says that resilient people ask themselves, this is so good, ask themselves, is what I'm doing helping me or harming me? Interestingly, she says, not surprisingly though, she says that of the 3 strategies, this is the one that prompts the most response. She gets more email and letters about this one than others. She said that she gets scores of letters and emails from people saying what a huge impact it has had on their lives, whether it's forgiving ancient family transgressions like arguments from Christmases past, or whether it is trolling through social media, is this harming me, is this helping me? Or whether it's asking yourself whether you really need that extra glass of wine. Asking yourself whether what you're doing, the way you're thinking, the way you're acting is helping or harming you, puts you back in the driver's seat. It gives you some control over your decision making. So, 3 things. Stuff happens and it happens to everyone. 2, recognize the positive even in the midst of the negative. And 3, ask yourself, is what I'm doing helping me or harming me? Okay, so those are the 3 simple strategies to get you some resilience. I loved this TED Talk, and I hope you will watch it. I'm putting the link on our website later on. I loved how practical and grounded it was, that it's a blueprint to build resilience. But the thing that Lucy said that I loved the most was, don't lose what you have to what you have lost. Right? That you can grieve and you can live at the same time. Both those things are possible. To that end, she suggests that at end of day, every day, that we name 3 good things that have happened since morning. 3 good things. It turns out that a practice of gratitude is good for you. It's why we shifted during the pandemic from a candle of peace to a candle of gratitude, to kind of get that practice in for all of us, at least on a weekly basis. So I'm going to do something that I did last week. I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to ask you to, we're going to pause right here and just turn to someone near you. Be mindful of those who are here for the first time. Make sure they're brought into this circle. Those of you at home, in the chat, and say to each other one thing. It's early in the day, so I don't expect that 3 good things happened to you this morning already. But turn to someone close by you and share at least one good thing that's happened to you today, and we'll come back together. Go. So from our souls in the pews, good things were named as the cinnamon toast at Aldi's is wonderful, fresh blueberries for breakfast, all these simple things that make such a difference in our lives, right? All of those simple things. So that's a good start. But we need to dig underneath these strategies, these practical strategies, to get to the heart of the matter. And to state what we all well know, and what I said a moment ago, choosing life doesn't mean that the grief goes away. It doesn't mean that it dissipates. Nothing ends, especially grief, especially love. But in time and with intentional care, that grief, it does turn into something, if not beautiful, then maybe bearable, at least. I love the way Anne Lamott describes the loss of a beloved as a broken heart that doesn't seal back up, right? It's so good. that doesn't seal back up. I have heard so many people wonder if they're alone in feeling that they can't shake the grief years later. They are not alone. You who are grieving, are not alone. Grief does not end, but it does turn you into someone new, someone different. You dance with a limp. Your heart is broken open forevermore. Perhaps you love more tenderly. Perhaps your compassion and sympathy for others grows in ways you previously could not have imagined. And if that's so, it's likely because that you have accepted that living with your heart broken open is okay. Or at least living with a heart broken open is simply the way it is. And please hear your minister assure you that you can live with a heart broken open and still see all the rainbows with which you are blessed. Both are true. You do not need to lose what you love to what you have lost. Suffering is part of life. It never ends, but you know what else never ends? What else never ends? Love. Love never ends. C.S. Lewis's dead wife meets him everywhere, he says. He describes it as a sort of unobtrusive but massive sense that she is, just as much as ever, a fact to be taken into account. The facts to be taken into account, those we have loved and lost, we wrap them around us like an old, comfy, cozy blanket. And then we dance with a limp. We sing. We meet friends for breakfast. We take a swim. We make grocery lists. We check them twice. We do the laundry. We make the bed. We wash the sheets. And when night comes, we revel in their crispness. We rest. We watch movies and stay up too late reading. We go to church. We set our burdens down. We set our burdens down upon the altar of community, knowing that here, we know about grief. We are not afraid of grief. That here, we hold it tenderly for ourselves and for everyone else in the sanctuary of our communion. In short, we live. We choose life. We remember that suffering is part of life, that love is part of grief, and we choose life. We choose love. We take that risk. Nothing ends. Not grief, but especially not love. So go from this place, dear souls, and choose love. Choose life. It's worth it. Let us hold the silence now as we hold our grief and suffering and love and joy and life. Now we're going to join our voices in singing softly and from the heart, Winds Be Still. Beautiful hymn. I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit.
Winds be still, storm clouds pass and silence come. Peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in calm let all find tranquility. High, lift our gaze toward distant view. Help us to sense life's mystery. Fly high and far and lead us each to see how we move through the ways of eternity. Light shining, illuminate our inward view. Help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in new sounds that become full symphony.
So pretty. I love that hymn. Let us join with Sally as we extinguish our chalice. Our service has ended, but our work is not yet done. May our spirits be renewed and our purpose resolved as we meet the challenges of the week. Our chalice flame is extinguished until once again ignited by the strength of our communion. Those at home, hands upon our hearts and another hand out, and those here, do the same or just reach out to the community within and beyond these walls. May our inward view be illuminated as we go from this place. Tomorrow morning when we awake, the moon will be beginning a night far away, and the sun will be here to begin a new day. Let us not remember to choose life and choose love, because, I'm gonna say it, shit happens. Go in peace and return again with great joy. Amen. Amen. I invite you to be seated. There are a couple of announcements. Those of you with us in the pews at home, stay exactly where you are for the town hall meeting, and Sally has announcements.
The offering, just so you all know, in the sanctuary here will be taken at the conclusion of the town hall, as it has been at the doors. So you can stand by for that. That will take place after the town hall meeting. Next week, Reverend Dr. Claudia Highbow will be preaching. Carolyn will be on a much-earned vacation through the 29th, which is barely long enough for all that she's done. So we're going to have the town hall meeting immediately after the postlude, and so those of you who are online, as Carolyn said, stay put, and we'll take your questions and comments from there. But first the postlude. Thank you, Gary. So since we're not having coffee, although all of us I'm sure would enjoy a cup right now, we're going to go shift gears. So maybe everybody could stand up just for a minute, just to kind of stretch it out. Maybe just reach up. All right. And so folks who are staying, if you can just take a seat now, and we will get going as soon as those who are departing depart, and all those online, stand by.
Or you can repeat their question if people don't just repeat their question for an answer.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yep. All right. Shall we get this party started? All right. So folks can just take a seat if you're staying. Thank you for sticking around. Those who are here and those who are online, thank you too. So again, my name is Sally McGee, and I'm the president of the Board of Trustees. And we are here this morning for a town hall to talk about the capital campaign and the building project. So to give some context for this discussion that we're going to have, I'm going to just share again what the board discussed on this topic at our September retreat, and that I've shared with the congregation previously, but I just want to make sure we're all kind of working from the same page. So through the pandemic, the capital campaign has continued. And of course, the building project has largely been on hold. It's been encouraging, though, of course, to see contributions coming in even while we weren't physically in the building, in this building that we all very much want to improve. So the board at our retreat, we talked about the extremely challenging time we're living in, the continued pandemic, economic uncertainty, social unrest, challenges to democracy, climate change, just to name a few highlights. And all of this adds up to a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. So despite all of this, we have taken care of some elements of the building project: new carpet, new paint, which was much needed after 14 years of vigorous use, and a significant kitchen improvement. We've also paid off our mortgage, which you all know. The balance was $310,000. That's gone. We're currently mortgage-free. And in terms of money in the bank, right now we have more than $540,000 in the capital campaign account. And we have another $230,000 still pledged with the 3-year capital campaign coming to an end this coming June. So, what is the best approach to our capital project in this very different and challenging time? That's the question the board discussed and the congregation needs to discuss as well. At our retreat, the board talked about building needs, which have long been identified: a community room, improved traffic flow, completing a new kitchen, and adding meeting and classroom space. And we anticipate those are likely still congregational priorities. But the challenge now is that we were out of the building for 18 months. Our congregation and the social and political and economic environment have changed in ways we don't fully understand yet. Banks are more conservative in their lending practices than they were 2 years ago. And the cost of construction has increased and fluctuated significantly. And of course, the coronavirus remains a threat. So considering these circumstances, the board discussed what may be the best path forward, including this process for congregational discussion and the need for this town hall. So where the board landed in our discussion in September is that we're suggesting that effort and energy focus on the congregation's immediate needs, reconnecting and reestablishing who we are in this different and rapidly changing world. Focus on worship, faith formation for children and adults, and other programming that connects us to each other and to the wider world. And the board so is leaning toward delaying the building project until 3 things. We know what the congregational needs are in this new and very different time. Construction costs have stabilized, and the pandemic has lessened significantly. The board is also wary of taking on a mortgage right now, considering our current financial situation, which, to be clear, we are in very good shape financially, and that is in part because we are not carrying a mortgage. All of this means that the board is leaning toward delaying making a decision on major capital improvements for another year, when hopefully the world, or at least a few key variables, are less volatile and uncertain. So we would take up the question of what we need and what we can afford in late spring 2022, when we will also have a clearer understanding of how the capital campaign is concluding. The hope then would be to be able to decide how to proceed by about next year this time. So the bottom line is the board feels that what matters most right now is people and our ability to reconnect and reestablish ourselves as a community. And now we want to hear your responses to this thinking. So we have people online, we have people in the sanctuary. People in the sanctuary, if you have a question or something that you want to say or share, you can come up to the microphone. You can take off your mask when you speak. Use the microphone so that folks at home can hear you. And Karen, our board vice president, is on the chat for those of you at home. Put questions or comments there, and Karen will relay those. So if you have a question or something you want to share, please come forward.
So first off, if I wear my mask with the microphone, can I be heard okay? Good. Because I would rather do it that way. My thoughts on this, having been part of the building team and coming up with the design that we did come up with, one of my major thoughts right now is that we need to seriously reconsider whether that design adequately addresses what we now know are needs for flexibility and space utilization. And personally, I believe we're going to find that we need to redo the whole design for our new space when we do move forward. I believe we will move forward, that we will come up with a way to do things. In the meantime, however, I think we do need to be willing to support some interim steps to more fully utilize our outside space for a larger part of the year. I.e., is there something we can do with a tent or something to utilize some of the outside space in a way that we can heat it so that we can use it throughout the winter? Are there steps we can take? And even though they might cost us some money, I think we need to be willing to do that, because that will provide us with the flexibility of being able to support things while we're trying to figure out how to do a more permanent solution. So that's my thoughts on it, and I fully support the board in holding off on doing any irrevocable solution. And I think that that's a great step to take, and that we just need to be patient. We will figure this out. We have a lot of talent in this congregation, a lot of knowledge, and we just need to make sure that we continue to have a lot of patience.
Thanks, Bob. Anyone else here want to offer something? The floor is open.
I think that what the board is proposing is prudent and wise.
Thanks, Linda. Karen, do you have some that you want to share from online?
So I'm not sure who Furball DF is. Maybe a cat or a dog owner. Thinks this is fantastic and it's exactly what we need right now. So that's what we've got so far.
All right. Quiet group.
Let's just do a show of hands if people support, just to see.
Should we do that? Okay. All right. So, so that we're not just taking silence, interpreting silence, we'll just ask for a show of hands of those who support the proposal to delay. And Karen, online, you can just have people type in.
And also let them know online that it was unanimous. It was unanimous, right?
Well, I haven't asked for the other side. So who,
It was what? Overwhelmingly positive. Thank you for the words that in real time. It was overwhelmingly positive.
I think we need to give people the opportunity to, though, those who do not support this approach.
Yeah. Jane.
All right. So the response for those of you who are not in the room is overwhelmingly positive, not 100% unanimous, close to. Anybody else want to offer anything?
Karen. 8 of 12 yeses online.
Okay.
8 of 12 in attendance.
So 8 said yes online out of 12 who are present. Okay. 10, 11. Okay. All right. Linda, let me, there was somebody else over here who hasn't spoken yet, said, yeah.
I just want to say, speaking for those who worked in the kitchen, let's get a little use out of it before we rip it out for an addition.
Thanks, Sid. Even though it's only partway there, and Janet Marolda always reminds me that it's partway there, it is pretty fabulous. It really is. It's so much better. Yeah. Linda, did you have something else? Can you come up to the microphone so folks at home can hear? Thank you.
If anyone has questions or is not in agreement with the board, I think their opinions are important.
Let me just respond to Linda. And Linda, yes, absolutely. People should, if they would prefer to email or phone, please reach out to me or Carolyn or Karen. Although the two of them are going to be gone this week, so reach out to me. Yeah. Okay, Karen.
I'm going to read it to make sure I've got it right. So Elizabeth and Danny Spur support the church's decision and want to know if congregants are okay with the church retaining capital campaign contributions in the meantime. So maybe we want to address that.
So the question is about the capital campaign funds themselves. Those are sequestered. They will remain sequestered in a capital campaign account that is designed and exclusively for capital improvements. We've had some preliminary discussions about if we're going to be delaying putting that money into a higher yield than a regular savings account so that we can make a little bit of money off of it. But that is what our discussion has been so far about that. Because the need will remain. The needs remain. We can all see that the needs remain. And I think to Bob's point and the board's discussion, we just need to regroup. They're just such different circumstances. So, all right. Giselle, did you have a question? There wasn't a question. Come on up.
So it wasn't a question, it was more of a statement. So if you want to put the funds in a higher yielding account, you really need at least a couple of years to be able to make any money off of it. Because like the first year, you really don't make any money off of those, just as an FYI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a previous treasurer, Tina Dubosc, took some of our reserve funds a couple of years ago and put them in short-term, higher yield, just CD accounts, and yielded several $1,000s. So it wasn't nothing. It was totally worth it. So I don't know if that's what we'll do, but that's the experience that we've had, and we'll explore further what the best thing. I have no doubt we will be conservative. We're not going to end up with less money. We'll be conservative in what the investments are. So, thanks, Giselle. Anything else online, Karen? Oh, okay.
It is possible to put that money into something called CDFIs, which is Community Development Financial Institutions, which the money would be doing something good while it's sitting around. So, but then some of these are very secure investments. And I'm also wondering what happens to some of the ideas that Bob mentioned, like expanding the outdoors. How does that proceed?
Thanks for the idea. We'll need to explore all those, so maybe Janet will get in touch to learn more about that. As far as the outdoor space, that is something that the board has also talked about, the need for that in the short term. We still, no decisions have been made, but there's been a discussion about an awning, if that would be good to have right outside here, that could be used for faith formation, coffee hour, that kind of thing. So there's also been discussion about parking lot, which is a little bit of a scene, especially around the trees. It's a hazard That was always something that was part of the plan, not the most exciting part of the plan, but something that's essential. But as far as space, that is something that we've talked about doing sooner rather than later, not next month. No decision has been made about that. Mary.
Are we going to be able to, is the homeless shelter going to be using the sanctuary again this year? So we're getting no money from that, and also we'll be able to use the space ourselves. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that last winter, I saw that. That was a huge gift to this congregation that we could host people here and you put this space to use. And it was a one-time thing, and they needed the space so that people could be sheltered and safely spaced out. So, but that is not the plan for this coming year. Anything else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. All right. Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.